All right, so now that we're going, we have our index file created. We're going to go ahead and start setting it up. First thing we want to do is go and create an FTP account so that we can access that file. So we'll go ahead and say create FTP account, and we'll use student and rack pass, and we'll select our inside out HTML app, your domain project, and we'll add the FTP account. Copy the name. And we'll go over to Dreamweaver. We'll go to new site. And we'll create inside out app project. We'll go ahead and create that folder as well. Getting rid of the student and the .com, and we're just going to roll with that name, and we're going to select the folder. We'll go over to our server, add our server. Of course, we want to know what our server's name is. I usually go and, because I copied that full name, I'll paste that in there, and then I'll copy this again and get rid of the name because I'll name everything else with that. Also, the address is right there. Put in rack pass and test, and we're good. We'll save and save. Now we should be able to connect to our remote server, and we can see our index file there. If we look on our local server, it's not there yet. We'll go ahead and pull that down. Say OK. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and set up our file correctly. First thing we want to do is add the doc type. As we know, the doc type lets the browser or whatever is reading this file know that it's an HTML document. We're going to go ahead and add our HTML tag, and we're going to specify that it is in English. Then if we have that open, we can go ahead and open our head tags. And we'll go ahead and start setting ourselves up. Of course, we're going to put our meta char set of UTF-8 in, so the browser knows how to read our information. The other thing we're going to do is put our meta viewport. And what this does is, especially for the fact that we're building an app, we're letting the browser know that it should not shrink it when it sees it. Don't scale it when it's on a phone, because we want it's going to be responsive, and we want it to react according to that. So we're giving this information to it, basically saying, don't scale it, don't do anything to it, let the code take care of what's going on. we'll go ahead and we'll put a title in, title, and we'll call it inside out HTML5 app. And that's good. So for now, that's all we need to put in there. Let's go ahead and let's open up our body. Get that taken care of. And let's save it. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and we want to put in our Bootstrap and jQuery libraries. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to go out to get Bootstrap, and we're going to, right here in the bottom of the page, tooltip tool. What we want to do is we want to take our CSS for Bootstrap, and we want to go ahead and we want to paste that in the head of our document. And then we want to go and grab the JavaScript, and we want all 3 lines of this, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So we'll go ahead and we'll copy that, and we're going to put that right in the bottom of our body. We're going to put it right in the bottom of our body. And the reason we're going to put it in the bottom of our body is we want everything else to load before it goes out after that. Occasionally it's nice to just come over and apply source formatting. I don't like when it bunches it together. I like to be able to break it out and view it. Also, it doesn't do a very good job at indenting. So just be careful with that. So always clean up your code a little bit. We'll leave the head and the body out there just to preserve space. We'll put some space in the top of the body. And what we're doing is we're loading up jQuery, which Bootstrap uses. You can still use the CSS from Bootstrap without jQuery, but to get some of the functionality and the cool things that Bootstrap will do for you, we definitely need jQuery in there. Then we're using Papa.js, which basically makes for nice tooltips, things like that. And then we're going to go over here to our Bootstrap min.js, which is going to bring all of our Bootstrap in. Good. Okay. So now the next thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and steal some code to get started, and we're going to steal that from bootsnipp. Part of this class is knowing how to leverage and use open resource opportunities as well as code, available code, because part of HTML5 application development is being a rapid developer, meaning making use of your resources and leveraging whatever you can to get the job done as quickly as you can. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're actually just going to go out and look for header, and what we want actually is the I believe it's this one. Let's go have a peek at it. We want to, yes, this is the one we want to steal from. So the way that we're going to do this, borrow from, not steal, is we're going to go out and you want to pay attention, whoever submitted this. I think they left that there to represent that they want the script in the head. And so we'll go ahead and copy the script, and we'll come up here in the head, and we'll make this the last thing that it processes in the head. And we'll go ahead and clean that up a little bit and push that in. So if you notice, it's a function init, and what that does for us is all of this is contained inside this function and will not go unless it is called. This is using actually straight JavaScript to say window load, and then it calls the function. And what the function does is it goes ahead and it puts a listener, it listens to the header so that it can change the styling of the header. Next thing that we want to do is we're going to go grab CSS. So before we do that, let's create a folder and call it assets. And inside the assets folder, let's create JS, and let's create CSS. And inside the CSS folder, let's create a new file, and let's call it style dot CSS. And in our JS folder, let's create a new file and let's call it app.js. And actually, now in this case, let's go ahead and just make it, we'll keep the files spread apart for now, just so that we can develop and troubleshoot more easily. So in this case, I'm going to look at what the name is, and it's resize and fixed header. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to name it header dash resize dot JS. That way we can keep our code separate for now. Eventually we do want to bring it together. We're going to go back now and we're going to grab the rest of the HTML code that's available to us, and we're going to scroll down, and at this point you could actually close the script, close the head so that things aren't so confusing, and we'll Control V that in there and the code should be in there. So let's clean it up a little bit, and there's the code that we pulled from bootsnipp, which at this point should give us something decent. So we'll open it in Chrome and we'll see, and we can see we have the content. What we don't have is the CSS. So we'll go back, we'll grab the CSS, and we're going to select it all, and we're going to copy it. And while we're at it, we're going to come over here, and just like we named that header resize, we're going to actually create a CSS file called that too. Header dash resize. Again, .css. Keep it all relative. Additionally, help with troubleshooting and developing. And we'll go ahead and we'll save that. And in order to get a look at it now to see how it's really gonna look and things like that, what we want to do is go ahead and put it up here in our header. I'm just bumping that down so I can read it better, so it's more coder friendly, let's call it. And let's go ahead and link our style sheet to the one that we created. Does a great job at giving us an opportunity to use some of the features and functions of Dreamweaver. Let's go out and take a peek at if that made a difference or not. Should have, and it did. We basically have everything except for that little bit of JavaScript to kick that off. And the way where we'll get that is we'll actually go in here to the JS portion of it, and we'll go ahead and we'll select it all and copy. We'll go up here into our header resize JS, And we'll put that right in there, and we'll save it and close that window out. And we're going to go ahead down here with everything else, and considering a lot of it's dependent on Bootstrap and jQuery, let's go ahead and just put it down here underneath all of them. That way we know that when it loads, it'll load after the jQuery and the Bootstrap, and that will allow us to call those functions without a problem. So let's go out and take a peek, see how we're doing, and we should get the resizing, which we do now. Pretty cool effect. Nice for an app. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to search again, and this time we're going to search for a footer. And if you notice, this header is right here is the address for it, and it's not a bad idea to actually come in here and right here under the script is a good place. Just go ahead and put that in there so that you have it for safekeeping for later. Now let's go in and let's look for a footer. We want to change it up a little, put a pretty cool footer down there. We're going to go ahead and we're going to use this one. And the reason that we're going to use this one, throw off the color a little, we're going to actually dynamically call in some Facebook posts and stuff like that. I thought it would be a fun way to learn. So all this has is some HTML, and we can see that it's also linking to a external file. So the way that we're going to do this, though, is we're going to come in here and get rid of that footer and replace it with the one that we copied. Additionally, let's go ahead. Well, we'll wait to do that. We'll get rid of this as well. So at this point, we'll save it. And let's go grab the CSS as well. We'll select all that and copy. And we'll do the same thing we did with the other, which is we'll put a new file in. We'll call it footer.css. And paste that in there. We'll save that. Let's go ahead. Let's put this in here as well. Just so we have somewhere that we know where we got it from. And we'll close that out. And we'll come on up here. We want the footer. We want to make sure that the footer is going to override anything. And let's comment real quick. This down here, and we'll say footer of the page. We'll change this over to footer. We'll save it. We'll go out and we'll check it out. And there's our footer. Like the black, throws it off. We'll keep the copyright down there as well. Well, no, we won't. Let's go get rid of this right here, this item. And the way that we can get rid of that is, if you look here, copyright, if you notice, I collapse it. That way I can see exactly what code I'm grabbing, because I don't think I want to grab that div, because that's the wrapper, and that just makes it easier. And let's use our notes and move that footer starts here. Well, it's already in there, and the footer ends there. We'll save it. Let's apply source code formatting. Save it. Refresh, and we got rid of that blue footer on the bottom. Everything's working. We want to make sure it scrolls nice. We want to make sure that everything looks right. And it just so to complete this portion of the lesson, what we want to do is we want to get rid of a bunch of the content and things like that. We'll keep one or two of these panels and get rid of a bunch of the code. Let's clean it up, make it easier to work with. So let's go back to Dreamweaver and let's take a look. And what we can see is we have a class of color. This is what you want to do. One of the things you want to do when you're looking at people's code is, right, we have a class of color and then no color, which is what's causing the blue. And to be sure about that, what we can do is we can say white panel, and let's put in blue panel. Because what we're going to do, what we're trying to do now is we just want to break this down to the bare minimum, so that all we have to do with is work with this and start actually creating our app. So we could say, you know, panel content, and do the same thing down here. Copy and pasting is not a bad thing. So we can put that. Oops, looks like I didn't get it, and I got a stray C. So stay clean, stay clean. Panel content. Let's go ahead, copy that. We want to be able to define our different colored panels because we'll use them in our application to break up information. And so we'll put this in there as well. And since we have a section class color and a section with no class color, at this point we're just going to go ahead and we're going to collapse these other sections, which will make it easier for us to actually remove them from the layout. So we're going to remove that, and if you can see, we have a bunch of wonky tags now. It's always a good idea to go ahead and clean up your tags. Make sure, like, I don't like how that that main is in there. I don't like how this is getting indented. But before we do anything more about it, let's save it and let's go out and let's just take a peek and make sure, good, we have a white panel, we have a blue panel, we have our footer. We don't really need to do anything to that right now. We'll get rid of this information just out of respect to the developer. So we'll go ahead, we'll look up here. That's our title, our inside out. And let's do -HTML5. Go ahead and update that in your file as well. And let's go down here, and we have the opening of the body, then we have our div, then we have our header, we have our H1. Let's go ahead and put our site name in there, inside out. Then we have our nav. Since we're developing, yes, it's nice to have code kind of broken down tight, and but in this case, I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to go ahead and just nest our code, make it readable, make sure that we can see what is what, make sure everything is where it needs to be. I don't think we need the excessive commenting yet. We don't want to add too much to our code because we want to be able to see it, but what we do want to do, and it makes perfect sense to do so, is to make sure that your code is very clean so that you're not starting off with some crazy convoluted piece of code that just starts off with you being confused about what is what and what is where. So as you can see, I'm cleaning up, and I expect your files when I've used source to look the same. Taking the time to do this now. The formatter, there's different tools out there that'll do this. I guess when you're old, you're old school sometimes. So it is a good idea to use the tools. I'm just trying to not waste time and go out and hop on tools. And I would love to go ahead and use the code formatting tool in Dreamweaver, but I'm fearful if I did that it would blow everything up on me. So we can see we have a main div and we have a content div. The main div is basically acting as a wrapper in itself, separating content from the same level as the header. Not a big deal. We might change that later. We have our wrapper, which is inside our body, and our wrapper does exactly what it says. It's wrapping the entire body of the web page, which is excellent. We want that because we want to be able to reference different things throughout the page, because that's how we will be updating it, which is another reason why we're really just looking to make the page as super clean as we can. Is that inside domain? Nope. So that is not inside domain, so it's at the same level as domain. I always try to make sure that I'm at the same, everything's indented the same so that there's no confusion about what is what. Alright, so now we'll come down here and we're going to clean this footer up as well. Part of cleaning this footer up, we can actually try this on here. Footer, I think we can get the whole thing in view here. That's a pretty big footer. Let's go through and let's just do it like this. Come down to the bottom of the footer, and let's see how our formatter works. Apply source formatting. We'll come down. Looks like it did okay. Kept a couple things out. Not sure why. I'd actually set the footer up weird. So let's just do it the right way. Alright, screwed everything up. So I just undid what I did with that formatting tool and going to go in and clean this up as well. I'll go ahead and pause it and finish cleaning this up. Alright, so I went ahead and I cleaned that code up. You don't have to worry, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It's just a matter of the cleaner it is, the better it is to work with. And so what we're going to do, though, to reduce a lot of the clutter is we're going to come in and we're just going to replace a lot of these. We can leave that. We'll just change that to US. Get rid of specific. We definitely want to get rid of specific information. That's fine, leaving those links. They're just to Facebook. And at this point, that closes our wrapper. That's our script. Our script. And our script. So at this point, that's how our code should look. I'll go ahead and take a screen grab of it then and put it out there for you. And this is what you should be handing in for this section of Inside Out project. Our next step, we're going to add some more JavaScript and put things together a little more and actually do our first Ajax call as well. Let's go out and take a peek just so we can see the final product. We don't get this scrolling, so that's not good. So let's go ahead and we'll go back and we'll actually, we want it to be, we'll just put some content in there because we want to be able to scroll so that we can make sure that the header is working correctly as well. Yeah, we put a lot of content in there. That's good and fine now. Not a big deal. So we'll use it like that, and that's what we want to be turning in for the step 100 of the Inside Out project.